Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the Purple Corner where we create wealth with wisdom. I have my favorite human being here today, Gogo Mbuyi, a box of wisdom. I can't wait for her to share her wisdom with us today. Today is the first part of the parenting series. I hope you enjoy the whole series. I'm particularly pressed about the discourse surrounding women and children, which is why this parenting series is particularly important to me, and I hope this is the first of many of this particular series. So the other day on Instagram I was reading a piece, and this is what evoked the urgency to actually have this conversation. So before we go into the conversation, I'll just let Gogo Mbuyi greet us and just tell us a bit about herself, and then we'll start with the conversation.
Hi Gogo, thanks for the intro and for the opportunity as well. I think Dana may have touched on a very important topic, especially nowadays. When we see things happening, it starts from parenting.
Yes.
Because your parents are your first teacher, your parents are your first mentors, your parents are your first everything. And once it doesn't work well there, it sort of influences
Everything else. Yes.
Yeah, therefore, thank you so much. Though I've been ambushed, you should know that.
Okay, so the piece that I saw, Lahakwe had posted it, just basically says, our failure to see children as people and not the property of their parents or subordinates of other adults is chief among the reasons why child abuse is so rampant. It's also fundamental to our failure to see all forms of abuse against children. In other words, why most people only see extreme violence against children as what abuse would be. We scoff at the idea that children have rights because we don't see them as people. We refuse to see children as deserving of respect because we don't see them as people. In order to better protect and love children, we first need to see them as people. So that for me was particularly important because I know particularly in the Black community, hierarchy and power dynamics are what set a tone for discipline. So often my mom would shout at me and say, Ina 46, una 21, you know. So that is the power dynamic that is spoken about. Or when I want to do something, I always need to be reminded how I'm financially dependent on my parents, or emotionally in terms of stability. If I leave, I don't have a home to go to. So this for me is what sparks the conversation just about parenting and the fact that these are our first relationships. So it's very important for us just to have this conversation around parenting. So I think you can just tell us a bit about what you view parenting as, and just sort of the dynamic of what you would think is what is right, because right is subjective and relative, but what is right for parenting just in current society, so the 21st century.
Okay, it's a tough one because the way we were parented and now what needs to be done is there's so much difference, but I'll just try. And then taking from your statement where you said your mom would say that I'm 46, you're 21.
Yes.
As parents, you feel that you have a responsibility because there's some experiences that you've had.
Yes.
And you want to protect your child. But in protecting your child, I think the biggest mistake we do as parents, we don't protect them by telling them why. We just say, you know, I'm your mother. Instead of saying, no, Gogo, I don't want you to go there because of ABC.
Yes.
Because then you'd understand why.
Yes.
Therefore, I think as parents, looking at my childhood, I was parented by very strong women.
Yes.
My mom Kulu, who is my mom's elder sister, they were 11.
Yes.
She was the firstborn, my mother was the lastborn, and my mom's mom died when she was born. Therefore, her sister was like her mom.
Her mom, yes.
And then I saw from the, because there was a huge age gap between the two. Mom would say, you don't do that, My mom would come in on a softer note to say, you don't do that because of that. And that is how I learned as well. Uguti, it works when you explain why. Whereas other parents don't. They just say, you don't do that and that's it. I'm your mother, I'm telling you, you don't do it. you know, and I learned from that. Not that Umamkulu, she was very strict or whatever, but she gave me all the love. But that's what is a way of parenting, to say, I tell you and you do it. Therefore, seeing you as a child, not as a human being.
As a human being.
Okay, it's because of that, it's more of protecting you. But protecting you also does not protect you if I don't tell you about the results of what you are doing.
Yes.
Hence, with the abuse. As a child, if you come and say, Uncle so-and-so did that, what were you doing? You know?
Yes.
You know, because I don't want you to get there. I want to protect you, but by protecting you, I'm damaging you as well. Therefore, that is my experience with it. It's difficult it's much more difficult now, because like we know that children also have rights.
Yes.
But what needs to be also stressed is that it's rights with responsibilities. And that's the problem.
Yes.
To say, okay, you can go out, but you must know ABC. You know, you must know what the consequences are, and you must know that you have to be able to face that and not to, you know, do things and at the end come and be a victim.
Yes.
Therefore, the rights that are there, I think there has to be a strong word to say it should be rights and responsibilities.
Do you think the responsibility conversation is disregarded because of lack of reasoning? So what I've taken from what you just said is that there's an importance in, when you're disciplining or raising your kids or just parenting, to always try and see reason in whatever it is that's happening. Do you think as children, we struggle to grasp the concept of responsibility because of the lack of reasoning?
Exactly, it's because we just close you down.
Yes.
You're the child, I'm the mother.
Yes.
And I don't tell you why I don't want you to go there.
Yes.
Whereas if I can sit with you to say that, you know what, I don't want you to go there because of whatever. And then if you go there, you must know that
this
you must.
is what's the consequences of your decision.
And should be ready to take those consequences.
Yes.
I think that is where there's like a discourse in parenting, where as parents we try a lot to protect and not to let go, but make them aware of what the consequences are going to be.
So basically you restrict their ability to make choices in specific instances.
Exactly.
And when I have been restricted to make a choice, it's much more easier for me to disregard the responsibility, because anyway, like, my mom has said I can't go there, or, you know, even if I'm going to go there, she didn't give me the opportunity to make this decision. So the responsibility is there. However, I'm not going to entertain the idea of that responsibility because I'm taking a risk, or I'm not going to entertain the idea of responsibility because this decision has been made for me. So the person who's made the decision for me must be the one to take on the responsibility. So this is such an important conversation, which I've never thought of like that when you have reasoning, it's easier for you to see the consequences of your decisions and to see that there's responsibility with every right.
And you have to take responsibility for whatever outcome. If I've told you that don't do this because of that, and you still go and do it. When it happens, then you have to take the responsibility.
Then you have to take the accountability there.
And I think parents, the other thing in parenting, what I've seen is that parents now have like, hi, rights, and they've like given their their responsibility as, you know what, the government has said that so as a parent, you are the first parent.
Yes.
Therefore, you are the government of the house. But it does not mean to say that you just are so strict, you don't give them loan. You give them the facts, you tell them what is happening, you tell them what the consequences are, and you say, then it's your decision. And if whatever happens, you must know that you have to take the responsibility and live with it.
Okay, so you touched on a bit about it, but I just would like for you to go just a bit in depth. So can you please tell us about your experience of being a child or parented from when you were younger?
Like I said, that Umamkulu was very protective. Therefore, she wanted me to be indoors, no going out, no friends, you know. And I can understand. And my mom, because my mom was in Rockville at my home, and she would tell me that it's because, you know, it's not safe out there. You know, you can have friends that are not good friends, but all you need to do is to make sure that you tell Mama Kuruguti, uhamba nobani, where are you going, what time are you going to be back, and when you say that I'm going to be back by 2 o'clock, be back by 2 o'clock so that she can trust you.
And if you can't be back by 2 o'clock,
Then
communicate
exactly
that.
and communicate that. Yeah, but during our times there were no cell phones.
Yes.
And if you don't come back and if you don't communicate and you come get back and say nothing, you must know that the next time you want to go,
you can't.
You can't.
Because you've ruined your opportunity.
Yes. Therefore, Mina, that was how my mom, she used to say to me, allow you to go. I trust you to act responsibly.
Yes.
And that's the first thing. Once your parent says, I trust you to act responsibly, when friends are doing things that you know that, then you say no.
Yes.
Because your parent trusts you. Whereas other kids are I'm like that. Whereas if you trust your child, you say that I trust you. Therefore, if you break that trust, then you must know that
there's consequences. So that reasoning as well,
Yes,
like we said
yes.
earlier on, and practicing the reasoning in the household makes it so much easier for kids to also practice this in an environment that isn't only in the household, which is so important. So second question.
And also, sorry, the other experience I've had is that much as fortunately I was brought up by two strong women,
Yes.
the one being very strict and not just listening, the other one just giving me the loan. But also what is important is that as parents, much as you give your child a freedom to have choices,
Yes.
you must have boundaries.
Yes.
They need them boundaries. That's the worst you can do as a parent, to say, I trust you to do whatever. No, they need boundaries. You need to be able to say, you know what, this is you can't go beyond this. Because, and also it is with age
that the boundaries
it is with age.
Yes. So the boundaries conversation is so important before I ask you the second conversation, because how it is that you adapted to learning boundaries at home will always translate into your being or your ability to set boundaries in your external relationships from home. So if I've grown up with the idea or just the constant decisions and culture of boundaries in the household, I'll also be able to, when I leave the household, to be assertive with my boundaries when I go out, to be vocal and communicative of my boundaries. So that's very important because, like we said in the beginning, our relationship with our parents sets the tone for a lot of other relationships outside. However, I do also think that as people, we can also make the decision to be better. So just because your first experience of parenting wasn't the best doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you have to give your children. You can actively choose to do, like you've seen that's the best you've known. You can choose to do better than the best you've known.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
and create your own parenting skills
and culture,
learning from what you've
taken.
And also observing also other, so that in that home this is what is being done. I think I don't want to go there. Therefore, you create your own parenting skills.
Yes, that's so important, because in my first video, in my introduction video, I was speaking about how growing up I was always privy to the idea that self-discovery is only done alone. But now as I grow up, I'm also understanding that you can self-discover with other people. So it's the same thing with what you're saying. You can discover and know parenting from your own eyes, however also allow yourself to see parenting in other people's eyes, and collectively that would bring so much wisdom.
Exactly.
This is such a great conversation. So my second question is, I want to know your experiencing of parenting. So you have three kids.
Three kids,
yes. So I just want to know. 2
girls and a boy. The elder one is a girl and then a boy. It's different with each child.
Yes.
That is why as a parent you cannot have a blanket way of raising. A child that does not have boundaries. And for that child you create boundaries. And a child that has a boundary that you can sort of trust, and you say, I give you the delivery. But at the same time, you are not going to discriminate and treat them differently.
Yes.
But what you do, consistency as well. You have to be consistent as a parent, because you might be surprised that the younger one is looking at you treating the elder ones. Therefore, whatever you do to the first and the second, if there's no consistency there, you confuse your children. They should know that boy or girl, there are chores, boy or girl, there's curfew, you know, all those things. You need to be consistent and also saying it. And then there would be some things where they say that, but you treat Sfiso differently.
Yes.
And I would say to them, this world treats women differently.
Precisely.
Therefore, you have to tough it up.
Yes.
Because Sfiso has so much advantage of doing whatever and whatever,
He
being
has
whatever.
privilege.
Privilege.
He walks into a room and they say,
Exactly.
oh,
And
okay.
during those days, we didn't know about privilege. Therefore, I would say to them, it's because this world treats women differently. Therefore, there are some things that I'm going to be much more stricter on you.
Yes.
And create more boundaries for you.
Yes.
Or give you the leeway to assert yourself. Because as women, like, you have to be extraordinarily good or excellent in whatever you do. Therefore, you can't sit and say, like my first Uzama. Zama, very relaxed. If she gets a 50%, she's happy. And I would say, no ways. I would force her. Because I knew she could get more than that. And she said, but you don't do that to Sfiso. I said, because the world there will treat Sfiso differently.
Always favor Sfiso.
Therefore, I used to sit with her and she used to, we would fight about that. Therefore, it's very important for me. The parenting there are different people, but you need to be consistent, though having, like, you know how they are, and therefore creating boundaries differently for them.
I loved it so much. If I must ask you and break down everything, we'll be here for forever. But I loved when you touched on the gender normatives and just the culture of gender in the household. That yes, we need to treat everyone equally. However, we need to recognize that the boy comes with a lot. The boy child has far more privileges. So what you're going to do is in the household, you're going to make it known that that privilege doesn't exist here, you know, so that that culture can exist, that he can also understand that yes, the privilege is granted to you, however, you need to be able to exercise it correctly. So I loved that so much. So my next question is just on how did your experience of being parented translate or influence how you parent now?
Sure, a lot. It has influenced a lot on how I parent now, especially when during our times, I was a teenager in the 70s. You'd never ever bring a boy home. With my mom, it was different.
Yes.
That is why when I was in the teenage stage, though my mom was very distraught,
yes,
she had to decide that she has to take me so that I live with her.
Okay.
And afterwards, when I was an adult, she explained why.
Yes.
Because she could see that there would be that friction. And she said, with me, I want all your friends, all boys and girls, to come into this house.
Yes.
And it was like, you know, people will whisper that there are boys going there. And I'm the only child. My mom would say, I want all your friends. And I didn't understand that.
Yes.
And when I was like an adult, she would say to me, I wanted to know all your friends so that I know the type of people that you are.
Yes.
And I think parents, the mistake that parents do is to say, I don't want to see boys in my house. For me, therefore, that influence of my mom with my children, they knew that they could bring all their friends at home.
Yeah. Yes.
And if you know their friends, you know the circle of people that they are with.
Yes.
And you'd be able to say, you know what, I've seen something that I don't like with someone, and you know why. Because they know good, like, what are the values, whatever.
Yes.
Therefore, I don't think so-and-so has the same values as we have.
Yes.
I know she's your friend or he's your friend, but I want you to be careful. And they'll say, hi, Mama, she's fine, she da-da-da-da-da. And then after a year or so, that, Mama, what you told me is exactly what happened.
Yes.
You know, therefore it helps you as a parent. Therefore, really, what my parents did for me. Same as with my dad. He was always, he was like, you go there, you learn about your life, you make mistakes, and then you move on. You know, therefore that is what I allowed my children to say. You go, you try whatever you want to try. You make mistakes, you have to take the responsibility, amend, and then move on.
For the first time since we started the interview, you actually spoke about your dad. So I just want to know just the relationship dynamic in that, and if that has influenced your life going forward in terms of relationship and just like your assimilation in life with having guy friends and just the existence of that.
Okay. My Lorna, the reason why I stayed with my mom, it's because my mom was a single mom, and she was not married. She married when I was 10 years old.
So you were still explaining, your dynamic with your father.
Yes, they got married when I was 10 years old. Also with that, my mom was very open. She told me that I'm going to get married, and there's someone that I Lorna found, and then I'm going to introduce him to you. And they came here, and I remember I was 10 that year. They came, and then I was going to be baptized that year.
Yes.
I won't say one. They'll know my age. I'm joking. When I came, I thought it was Abu Baba from church.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And then they were sitting there, the two Babas, and then I went in the house, greeted them, went in the house, and then my mom said, "Okay, let me go and introduce," and then introduced me to the dad. Very loving dad.
Yes.
Loving, protected me. And he never wanted to hear the word stepdaughter.
Yes.
Because with family,
yes.
Say, "Aye, stepdaughter kaban." He never wanted to hear that. Very loving, and also very protective. And also, you know what? He passed on 1990. And when you hear about the child abuse and whatever,
yes,
I think about him and I thank God for him.
Yes.
My mom was a nurse, and she used to work night duty.
Yes.
And I'll come back then I went to boarding school when I was 14. When I would come back for holidays, my mom would be working night duty, and I'll be left with my dad. And she'd go out, have a drink with his friends, come back, Mbumbu, where are you? And I'd be so angry because he left me. And then he'd come into my bedroom, see whether, I'm fine. Are you fine, my baby? Okay, good night. And he'd lock and go into his room. Very protective. Therefore, that's the relationship that I have. Therefore, all I've experienced from him is really love. But like as children during our times, there was no close connection, especially you are closer to your mom than your dad. Not because he was a stepdad.
Yes.
Even kids that had their own fathers, they would say, "I'm more closer to my mom than my dad.
Yes.
But otherwise, he was really, and he'd allow me. In fact, when I would come with friends, he'd be the friend. He'd sit with my friends and chat with them.
Yes.
Therefore, that was it was like an open home, a loving home. And I think it helped me also in bringing up my kids, that my kids' friends should feel that they're at home here.
Yes.
Because that's what my parents used to do to my friends.
So do you think from your experience just of growing up and parenting when you were growing up, do you think you've because obviously that's the best you've known all your life, do you think when you started being a parent you actively chose that's enough, or do you think you chose even better than that?
No, I think I chose even better than that because like I said, that the times are not the same.
Yes.
Therefore I had to adapt. And also with they were the first lot that went to mixed schools, and you know that I think I say to them, we threw you in the deep end.
Yes.
Because we let them go to schools where they were being assertive, or not that you're not allowing kids to be assertive, but there's some things that I would say, no, you don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to me. Therefore, much as I learned from my parents that they would allow you to be expressive or whatever, but I found that the culture is not the same.
Yes.
It's, I don't know how to put it. There are some things that you can say to your parent, but say in a respectful way.
Yes.
Whereas in another culture, you say
you just say
it, and it's acceptable. Therefore, I tried, take from there, but also to say there are some things that I need to do differently in order to adapt to how things are
happening now.
Yeah.
Okay, valid. So the last thing before we close off our video, I just want you to give your advice that you can give to parents who are parenting now, and maybe you can also give advice to children, because I always say that in as much as we expect our parents to understand that we are human beings before their children, we also need to give them that same sort of energy, that we also need to understand that they are human beings before they are our parents. So I do think that in as much as the conversation needs to happen from the parenting side, we also need to have a fully fleshed conversation about parenting from a children's perspective, and just get to understand just the nature of that. Yes, our parents are superhumans, and or we expect them to be that, but they are also really human beings. So please, can you just give our people who are watching some advice just on parenting and just on being parented?
To parents, say that it's a difficult job. What can I call it? It's difficult, but also rewarding.
Yes.
Difficult in the sense that there is so much pressure for you. It's work, it's kids, it's making sure that the home chores are done and whatever and whatever. But what is important with children is that give your kids time. Have time with children. No matter how tired or whatever, give them time. But also what is most important, have time for yourself.
Yes.
My kids knew when they were toddlers that between 6 and 7 it's mommy's time. I would lock myself in my bedroom and they're not allowed to knock and say mommy this or mommy that, so that I sort of reflect, be with myself, do my meditation, just be me, because I'm a person
so
as
you
well.
can also fill your cup, because
And parents feel that no, you have to be there 24 hours, 7 days a week. You are going to burn out and you're going to take it out on your kids. Have time for yourself. And another thing, that's when you say that, are you parenting differently? The one thing that I decided, I'm going to have time for myself and pamper myself. Therefore, my mom used to have a fight with me, because every year I would take a retreat, a weekend's retreat. I would leave home Friday, Saturday, come back Sunday. On my own, go to a retreat center. Therefore, as parents, you need that. Go on your own. Don't go with your hubby. Go on your own as a mom to regain that strength, so that you can come back and have strength for your kids, for your husband. Then you won't have a burnout. Then you won't have need to shout and scream and do whatever, because you come back rejuvenated.
Yes.
Taking care of yourself is very important. And for kids, you must know that as parents, we have our fears. We might not want to show you, but we are fearful for you. Therefore, whatever your parent does, it's not, it's in good faith. You must know that. If your parent is shouting and screaming at you, you must know that they are either tired, burned out, or whatever. What you have to do as a child, for you to stand there and be stubborn and scream back, it's not going to help.
Yes.
What you need to do, take time off. And when you see that your mom is okay, go there in the kitchen, be with her when she's cooking, help her to peel, and just say, yes, mama, I didn't like what you did. I didn't like how you shouted at me. I didn't like what you were level. And as parents would understand. All we do is out of love.
Yes.
But also as parents, don't love your children too much. When you
Must be
spoil
a
them.
balance.
There has to be a balance. There's a saying, I'm not sure who said that, or I really have time for yourself, but also very important is that you raise your children with boundaries. Tell them the truth. Tell them why you don't want them to do whatever. Be very open and frank. As parents, sometimes we're scared to touch topics that are, especially in the black community, there's some topics we don't want to touch. Talk about those topics. But what I want to say is that there's a saying that says that you have to raise your children and not spoil them, so that you can be able to spoil your grandchildren and not raise them. A lot of grandparents are raising their. I'm not raising my grandchildren. I'm spoiling them. They
so
come
profound.
as and when I feel like. But the grandparents that are stuck with children
to
because they
raise.
spoiled their children. Now they are raising their grandchildren.
That's so profound, and that's a whole different conversation. Oh my word, there's so many. We're going to have you back. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to add just on the parenting thing. I always say empty tins make the most noise. So you don't, and you can never give from an empty tin, because what are you giving? So it's so important to make sure that your cup or your tin is full, so that you can give from a place of abundance. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And thank you so much, Gogo Mbuyi, for coming to start off this beautiful series with us. And we hope the reception for this series will be great. And yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.